Welcome to the latest Seahawks Draft Blog live stream instant reaction podcast. It's a solo pod. For some reason, whenever the Seahawks seem to lose to the Niners, I end up doing these on my own. So here we go. Get your super chats in. So I've got some questions to answer or some comments to bounce off on. I really appreciate all of those. I'm just going to tell it, what I think I saw today, because I thought that was absolutely embarrassing. I thought the Seahawks looked like they were totally unprepared to play this game. And that was exactly the same way for the whole team against the Giants and for the defense against the Detroit Lions. They got themselves in a huge hole. And yep, just like against the Giants and against the Lions, they managed to fight their way back into it and make a bit of a game of it. But let's be really honest here. What have we really seen? I mean, they got back into the game because of a Laviska Shenault kick return. Great kick return. Congratulations to him. Well done to the special teams for actually making a positive play for once. But that's why they got back into the game. And because the referees, for some reason, have worse cameras in New York where they need to make actual decisions on the game than Amazon or whoever is running the broadcast have to be able to see that that came off D. Williams' finger and should have been a San Francisco ball. Everything else about that game was another thumping by the Niners. They were so far and away better than the Seahawks. And you could just run through every single level of it. There was only one sack in the game, I think, and it happened right at the end. But just watching the Niners defensive line, Bosa's having an impact on every single down. And they were impacting Geno Smith, and they were impacting the Seahawks. They did bottle up all of those inside runs at the start of the game. San Francisco's secondary is decimated, but they did a better job of just being organized and just making the Seahawks earn their yards downfield and earn their touchdowns and earn their plays. It never felt like the Seahawks. I mean, look at some of the touchdowns and the big plays the Seahawks gave up today. Blown coverages, bad angles, not reacting quickly enough. It was just really bad. And look, Brock Purdy just completely outplayed Geno Smith. Brock Purdy scrambling around, extending plays. Even when he's scrambled and you think he's scrambled too far, he's going to have to throw the ball away, and he just resets his feet and throws it to someone who's wide open. Like Geno Smith, look, he's a good athlete. If you need him to run in a straight line for 30 yards of open space, he can do it. He's proven he can do that. He's made some good runs this year. He can't scramble. I just kept thinking, I'm not harping back like, I wish Russell Wilson was here and stuff like that. But I just had the feeling that sometimes in this game when the pressure was on, Russell would have gone out of the pocket and scrambled around and would have moved around a lot more, would have extended plays. It would have opened things up against the weak secondary. It felt like Geno was like glued into the pocket all of the time. And he was inaccurate. He missed early in the game on some throws that he has to make. On third downs in particular, he's got to make those throws. The two interceptions were awful. Let's just call a spade a spade. He didn't play well today. Like, people are still making excuses. The second interception, DK ran the wrong route and stuff like that. He didn't play well today. And this is why when we come on and we don't talk about big contracts and pay the man and stuff like this, because Geno's very capable of playing very, very well. He's also capable of playing like that. And that's the problem. You have very streaky play from him. He can be very good. He can be that today. And Brock Purdy, I have to say, he made up for a lot of San Francisco's injury issues today by being great and by making things happen and by not turning the ball over. And the Seahawks did turn the ball over 3 times. Wow, where do we go now? The coaching staff. Like, Mike McDonald has come over, and look, it's a new staff. But let's just be honest about this, because I can tell you what you're going to hear for the rest of this week. You are going to hear people saying, they're a new staff. They need time. I still believe in Mike McDonald. Everything's going to be okay. He did this in Baltimore. Hey, listen, there is no reason right now to have any of that faith. It is pure, blind faith. He needs to show in the coming weeks that he warrants faith. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but that's just the way it is. Because what I'm seeing right now, his team aren't ready to go. And the game plans are confusing. They I mean, they came out, they were just running the ball up the middle, having spent all week talking about running it up the middle. Like, yeah, the Niners are going to expect that. Where's the creative runs, though? Why not just be balanced last week and be balanced this week rather than not running at all last week and then trying to force the inside run this week? Defensively, what is Mike McDonald bringing to the table right now? That defense looks terrible. It looks worse than last year. Like, I've got the numbers here. I kind of wrote them all down as I was making my article. And I want to be really clear about this. Like, sorry if I jump between different points because there's just so much that was bad about that game. I want to get into it all. The ending. So you get in the position where you have a chance, maybe to get one stop and have one last chance to win the game of football. And they're, fifth string running back because of all of the injuries, runs for a 76-yard play. 76 yards. The Niners ran for 229 rushing yards today. That's after giving up 175 rushing yards against the Giants and 186 against the Patriots. The Lions got 116 rushing yards, and the only reason they didn't have more is because they got over 500 yards of offense because Jared Goff didn't throw an incomplete pass. This is woeful. Like, there is nothing good about Mike McDonald's defense right now. There's no pass rush. There's no consistent pressure. If they're creatively blitzing, it ain't working. And they're not winning with 4. The linebackers are not playing well enough. The tackling's terrible. The cornerbacks don't seem to be making any plays. They never seem to be near the football. Like, what's an interception? I don't know. They never even get close to them. There's never even, that was nearly picked off. There's nothing. They don't get anywhere near Daniel Jones, Brock Purdy. No. Unless they're playing Bo Nix in his debut on the road, they ain't getting anywhere near an interception. The safeties started well. Julian Love had a good open field tackle, made a couple of good plays. Apart from that, he had a bad angle on the... look, and someone will watch the All-22 and tell me it's somebody else's fault. But whatever, it looks bad. Everything looks bad. They look soft. They don't have any intensity. Who's the leaders? Who's getting everybody fired up? Like Fred Warner was. Like, no one expects flawless play. I'm not expecting the LOB, but I'm expecting better than that. Somebody just said in the comments, there's no disruptors. There isn't. There is nobody disrupting the opponent right now. Nobody. Either by manufactured scheming or by individuals getting off a block and winning 1v1. Get off a damn block. Make a tackle. Sack somebody. Hit somebody. Do something. It's too easy. 229 flipping rushing yards. Nearly 500 yards of offense for the Niners, who were injured. They had injuries as well. It's crazy. You can't help but feel right now. Like, listen, it'd be easy for me to come on this stream right now and do what a whole bunch of other people are going to do and say, you can't judge him yet. You can judge him. This isn't good enough. It doesn't matter if this is your first year as a head coach or your 5th. This is the NFL. This is the elite level of football. You don't get to, he's still got his training wheels on. So it's okay to be bad as this in games as important as this because he's just started his career. That's not how it works. This is the elite level of football. You've got to be better than this. You can't be abject. You can't be embarrassing. It's not good enough to just say, a period in the game, they got a couple of stops. Great. A couple of stops. Is that what we get excited about now? A few stops, a few punts. No turnovers, no pressure, no tackling, no anything. It's awful. And then you look at Ryan Grubb on the other side of the ball. What are we doing here? Mate, I'm starting to think that Detroit game was just Detroit's defense isn't very good. Now, what is the plan? Force feed DK. We can't catch a ball. He threw that. I have officially given up, by the way, on DK Metcalf ever being the big physical phenom that we hoped. I've completely given up on that. When that play went to him before halftime, and all he had to do was go back to the football and body that defender, and he did just he just let the ball come to him into his body. It was a body catch, and he made it easy for the defender to break up the play. Go and beast that guy. Just run through him. You will either get a flag or you'll make the catch. He just stood there and let it come into his body, and it fell down. There was the other play Oh, it slipped through his hands. It might have took a deflection. Yes, so what? Do you know what? Those are the kind of plays that Mike Evans makes all the time. Like Mike, you can throw it up to Mike Evans. Nobody talks about Mike Evans, by the way. It seems like the amount of minutes that get spent talking about DK Metcalf and words written about, and amount of minutes written about Mike Evans seems disproportionate to me. Mike Evans should be in the Hall of Fame the way that he's playing, and he has a Super Bowl ring. And then the DK Metcalf, he's not. No. He is. And they're trying to force feed him, and I understood it, and I agreed with that plan. That it's time to move on. It's time to do different things because that ain't working. And, the run game, Ken Walker, get him outside, be creative. Let's come up with some plays. Just run up the gut. Run up the gut and bang your head against a brick wall for the whole of the first half. They have too many good skill players on the offense to look as frustrating as they do. And I just can't help it. I just don't like the no huddle. And maybe this is a me problem rather than a Seahawks problem. I just don't like the no huddle. We're going to pretend to snap it. And then we're going to pull back. And then we're going to look to the sideline. And then we're going to change the play. I'm not having that. I'm not having it. D. Williams. Why? Why? Why are we persevering with this? They nearly run into each other in the early game. They nearly run into each other. They nearly give away a stupid issue on the kickoff. He then gets the ball. He kind of runs out to like the 10-yard line or something. What are they doing? Just take a knee, man, in the end zone. You're there. Take it back to the 30 or whatever it was. I don't know, man. Just don't run to the 10. Nearly has the botched fumble on that, and maybe that wasn't so much his fault. It was just an unlucky play. I don't know. There's just so much. There's just so much. Like D. Williams, like someone has just said he's got one job on the team, and you don't feel like if you have one job on the team, which is to catch the football on kickoffs and not turn it over. And I tell you now, every time the ball goes to him, I've got my head in my hands waiting for a mistake. Waiting for a mistake. Wow. Okay, let's get into the super chats. If there's anything else that I need to come up with, but I'm worried, guys. I'm really worried because it doesn't get any easier from here. Like you have got a bit of a break now. I think we could all use a break. And then it's the Falcons on the road. That's not easy. The Bills at home, the Rams at home. Gosh, I'm not looking forward to that now. Then you've got to go and play the Niners again. And you've got to play the Cardinals and just see Kyler Murray running for 100 yards in that game. On the road to the Jets, who've got rid of Robert Saleh now. Then where's the next win coming from? I mean, look, they'll win one of those games. I get it. They're not going to. I certainly hope they're not going to lose out. But I'm looking at that now, and all of the optimism has gone. Like they have just, they've given away 42 points, 29 points, and 36 points in the last 3 games, having appointed a defensive-minded head coach. I can't help but feel, I know Leslie Frazier's there, that maybe this staff is just too inexperienced, that you can't have a coach who has 2 years experience as an NFL defensive coordinator leading this thing, that you can't have an offensive coordinator who has never coached in the NFL coming in and controlling the offense, that your special teams coach, coordinator has never coordinated and has kind of just fitted into different roles in his career, working for his uncle or his dad. I think it's Leslie Frazier is fantastic, but he's one man. Like, who is the senior coordinator? It just or decision maker. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right, and it worries me. And I don't think this is premature. And I'm sure people will hammer me. Maybe some of you guys who are in there now can see, most of the comments, the live chat's flying, super chats are flying. I'm going to get to them. Most of the people are going to be agreeing with me in here because, you're watching this because you suspect that I'm going to say these kind of things and I'm going to front up with you. Okay. Like people are going to be, they're going to be defensive this week. They're going to say it's okay. They're saying it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Don't worry about it. Every little thing's going to be all right. Okay. But I don't know. I'm not saying this is Jim Mora, but you could tell when Jim Mora wasn't going to work out. And I need to see some improvements pronto on this defense. Pronto. They need to improve. There's losing and there's losing. This was not good. Okay, let's get through some of these super chats. Keep them coming in. Lil Smooch says, Gino blew it. Defense plus O-line wasn't terrible, in my opinion. I thought the defense was terrible. I don't think the O-line was terrible. I mean, like, anyone expecting Stone Forsythe to have an amazing game against Nick Bosa is having a laugh. So that was never going to happen. But this certainly wasn't just a one-man issue. It wasn't just Gino lost the game. He just played badly the same as everybody else. But I appreciate the super chat. Corey Kuhlman says, gut-punching loss, Rob. The defensive line and linebackers obviously are not on the same page. Losing Byron Murphy might be a bigger loss than we think. Maybe so. But listen, I can't, he's a rookie defensive tackle who was, wasn't having an amazing impact in the early games. If he was playing like rookie Aaron Donald, I'd be like, yeah, you're absolutely right. But he wasn't having a massive impact in the games. I've seen people say that he absorbed a lot of double teams, which is great. It'd be good to have him back. He still played against the Patriots and they still ran for over 180 yards. So I'm not going to sort of overreact to them. And I'm not saying that you are, Corey. I'm just saying that for me, that Niners team is decimated, right? They were losing players like the starting safety, Mustafa, had the interception and a big tackle. He went off injured. Like Deebo Samuel went off injured. Kittle went off injured. There was a whole, the guard went off at one point. They are decimated, right? The Rams are decimated, and they beat this Niners team when they were healthier than they are now. Okay, like everyone's got injuries. There's no excuse for playing that badly. That was really bad today. Really bad. Thank you, Corey, for the super chat. Thank you, Mark, for your super chat. Much appreciated. Hunter says, I'm so sick and tired of getting spanked by the 49ers. It was so embarrassing seeing all the red in the stands and listening to the Niners chants. Pathetic. Yes, look, this is a huge point. I'm glad you brought this up because I'd have forgotten. Like all of the expensive seats are the ones at the front at Lumen Field, the ones that you see on the TV. They're all red. Like it's very clear that over the course of the last however many years that people have invested in season tickets in those expensive seats, and now all they do is maybe they pick and choose the games, but for the most part, they are flogging those tickets on resale sites to very wealthy visiting fans, and it stinks. Okay, it looks awful. It has become Lumen Field. Large sections of Lumen Field have just become side hustles for a bunch of season ticket hoarding fans. Like the Seahawks have to look into this. Like you cannot have that many red. When I was there at the Thanksgiving game last year, it was a sea of red, and it looked that way again today. They've got to do something about this. You're supposed to have a home field advantage. Like, at the end of the game, all you can hear is "Let's go Niners." Like, come on, man. This is just it's poor. And I know it's not just a Lumen Field thing. When the Seahawks play in Arizona, for example, if the Seahawks win, you will hear all of the Seahawks fans chanting. That's the way it is. It's the same at a lot of other stadiums. I get it. It's not just Lumen Field. It's really bad. And the Seahawks are not a good home team right now. They've lost their last two home games. They are 2-2 at home. They've kind of had like a 500 record, maybe even below 500 at home with fans in the stadium since, I think, 2019. They had a winning record when there was no fans in Lumen Field during COVID. They had a 12-4 season, whatever it was. If you take that season with no fans in the stadium at all, they are not good at home. I think they have a losing record. So this is what's going on. Why are they so bad at home? And the Niners were taking the piss at the end of the game. Like the fans are chanting. There's the red shirts there. All the Seahawks fans have gone. And you can audibly hear the chants, and Usyk is jumping into the sort of the corporate box thing, hospitality, to go and celebrate with his wife. I mean, what is this? I mean, talk about embarrassing. And the Niners are just better. They're better in the trenches. They've got a better quarterback. They're a better team. They've got a coach who, like the Niners fans might not like him. The guy has got you to contention year after year after year, and I would not bet against them being back there again. Like, I am jealous, and I am not too proud to admit that. And they have our number. 6 wins in a row now against the Seahawks. It's bad, and you have to talk about it. You can't just ignore it. P.O. says, Mike McDonald looked confused and nervous during prime time. Please hold off contract talks for anyone right now. Yes. I mean, look, I thought it was preposterous last week or the week before Like all the radio, well, not all the radio stations. I think ESPN 710 or Seattle Sports 710, whatever it is, were doing like they did a couple of segments like who is the most important person to pay first? Is it Charles Cross? Is it Geno Smith? Is it DK Metcalf? I was like, they've played like 3 or 4 games. Like, can we wait a bit? Like, just wait till like we've had half a season, maybe, or even a full season. Like, why are we rushing to pay anyone right now? Who would you pay a big contract to after that game? Like, come on. Oh, we paid Charles Cross. Like, what? Really? Like, let's see what his grade was for today. It might be really good. He had a really good grade against Denver. He's had 4 very average grades since then. We talked about it with Jeff the other night on the stream. Like, why would you pay him? Geno Smith, come on. Like, it was his 34th birthday today. Are you going to pay for the 36, 37, and 38 years of that we saw today? God, $50 million a year? Forget it. Like, at best for Geno Smith, he's playing out this contract. He's not getting an extension in the offseason, short of some like major run that's coming up. And this is who he is. He plays very well for a few games. His play will regress for a few games. It's what he is. He's a bridge quarterback. And there's nothing wrong with just admitting that. We don't need to rush to pay this guy every time he has a good stretch, which he has every single year. He had it West Virginia in his best season. He had it last season for the Seahawks. He had it in 2022 for the Seahawks as well. He will have it here. He's had some good games this year. He's a bridge. He's a bridge. We don't need $50 million a year. Nah. No. They can just play out the contract. They've got him for next year if they want him. So thank you, PO, for that. Matt says, turnover battle lost again. Penalty battle lost again. Can't get lined up correctly. Yeah, by the way, that big touchdown to DK there. Oh, they've not got lined up properly. Come on. Details. Matt says, that's coaching. Maybe Mike McDonald turns it around, but my enthusiasm is gone. Yep, mine too, Matt. I think for a lot of people it will. Like, it was always like, right, they've beaten the 3 teams you expect them to beat. Only just beat the Patriots. They've beaten the quarterbacks and the opponents you expect to beat. Now the real test, Lions. Lost. Couldn't stop anything on defense. All right, okay, the offense was good. And the defense was banged up. Okay, go to the next thing. Lose horribly to the Giants. Awful. Lose horribly to the Niners. Awful. There's very little reason for encouragement right now. K Soon says, how long to wait for coaching to kick in? It's a good question. I'm ready for it now, by the way. My answer to that would be, I want to see it in week 7. That would be my answer to that. Thank you, K Soon. Old Caulfield Brand says, Baker's the only player on the defense that's doing anything, and ironically, he missed all of training camp and didn't learn the system. Coincidence. I'm struggling to see what the system is right now. I'm not an X's and O's expert, but it doesn't look good. Tommy says, F this roster. 12 deserve better. Not good enough. Not acceptable. Geno equals replaceable. I think there's a lot of people who are going to feel that way, and you are absolutely justified to feel that you deserve better. I thought at times in that game, it was a performance worthy of an apology. It was so bad. And yet they showed a little bit of fight, and I'm sure they'll cling to that. That's what someone will ask, because someone always does, like, what's the positive you can take from that? And, you know, the answer may well be that they didn't give up and they kept fighting. And you know, like, that's a reassuring thing. They didn't just get blown out 50 points to 0 or 50 points to 3. That instead it ended 36-24 at home in a game that your opponent called a must-win. Yeah, it wasn't good enough. And fans deserve better. You know, they've been kind of just muddling along as a franchise for a while. And listen, I've been a staunch defender of John Schneider, and you know, I still think that I think GM is one of the hardest positions to fill successfully. And when you strike on a good one, it is akin to finding the franchise quarterback without having the number 1 overall pick. I really do think it's that difficult. But John has, you know, he's helped sort of shape the roster and build the roster. And this year he's had, you know, full say. And a lot of the problems that we've seen in previous years are still there. And eventually he will have to carry the can for that. You can't continue to be a bad tackling team. You know, if you're in charge of the coaches now, okay, well, let's see the improvement. You can't, the pass rush is still bad. The tackling's still bad. The run game is still abysmal, worst in the league. Eventually, the buck stops with the man at the top. Mark has sent this unbelievably generous super chat. And Mark, I don't know, I kind of feel, Mark, do you want to reach out to me and confirm that you actually meant to send this? Because I don't want to, listen, we've all watched that game, and if there was an error there, then let me know. Mark says, okay, a couple of things. If not, then I'm overwhelmed with appreciation. Mark says, okay, a couple of things as I'm walking out of the game. We have, and that's the other reason why it makes me think there's been an error. We have the loudest stadium in there, nil. There is no reason their offense should be rattled. Gino, not a long-term QB. We needed to pivot next year. I'd bring in Russell Wilson. We need Byron Murphy back. I think we trade DK while he has cap value. Mark, I'm just going to say this. If you're not watching this now, if you are watching this tomorrow, reach out to me. If you did not mean to send that, and we'll sort something out. Taker610 says, meet the new boss, Sai, same as the old boss. It's definitely feeling that way. Nunya393, what's your thoughts of the video of DK taking the headset from the coach on the sidelines and looking like he's screaming at Grubb? I didn't see that, but it's not good. Shouldn't be doing it. Body language was crap again tonight. I think Gino heard some of that talk in the week, which is why I was giving a passionate speech in the huddle. But then when the game started, it felt like same old Gino on the sideline when things didn't go well. Same old DK. You know, I don't understand. Like, I've been a big defender of DK Metcalf, but you can only keep doing it for so often. If he did that, I can probably have a little Google now and just see if I can find something here. Often someone will post it on Twitter. Yeah, can't see it. I've not seen it, so I can't comment too much on it. But there is sometimes a bit of a pile on with DK when things don't go well for him. But he didn't play well today, and if he's saying that the coach isn't calling him, it's not good. It's not good. It doesn't speak well for the long-term success of this team, of the togetherness, of everyone being on the same page. And frankly, what I would follow up with that is anybody really surprised that they might not be after seeing the way they perform? And that is worrying. It is worrying. It just is. I'm not saying it's Jim Moore yet, but P&O says DK had 3 catches on 11 targets. At least he stopped his fumbling streak. Indeed. Bit of gallows humor. Thanks, P.O. Sean says, it seems like the team lacks leadership within the roster. We desperately need players to step up, and GM and head coach must create the environment for that. Failure on their parts, no heart or brotherhood. I think Sean makes a very pertinent point, and it's a good observation, Sean. The biggest problem is, though, they have spent the last 3 drafts, at least, zoning in on guys that they feel are leaders, that are tough, strong, high character players. Like, they have gone way towards high character is a must. Like, that's their thing. You know, that's the reason why throughout the whole of the draft last year, you know, I'd heard from what I'd heard, they were not going to draft Jalen Carr. That's not like Seattle's. I think that's not from a Seattle source. That's what I knew about Jalen. They wouldn't take him because they're so zoned in on character and leadership and stuff like this. And they took Devin Witherspoon, who kind of fit all of those things with a 5th overall pick. So they've kind of gone towards that, and they've still not got it. They've been so focused on like leadership and all that. I don't know what that means. I must admit, I was thinking a bit during the game and a bit in the week. Maybe you need a few wrong uns. Maybe leadership isn't always from the people in college who's, you know, say the P's and Q's, you know, the ones who were sort of the leaders. Sometimes no one would have said Richard Sherman and Cam necessarily, and Earl and people like that. You know, Marshawn were like prototype leaders, but like everyone, like Marshawn was the soul of the team. Like, he led by example with his style of play and the fact that everybody respected him. But Marshawn was not a typical leader. He wasn't a choir boy. He wasn't somebody who you just thought, I have to get him in. And I think the Seahawks have been drafting players who kind of fit more that mold. And sometimes maybe we need a bit of devil in a player. Maybe that's what leadership is sometimes. It is that player who is just, it is his physicality. It's his mean streak. It's the fact that he is a bit a bit of a baddie, for want of a better phrase. And maybe they don't have enough of those. Maybe they need to find one or two of those. Maybe they need to take a chance. But it's hard to do that because, like someone said to me once, if you draft one exception, you end up with a team of exceptions. It's really hard. It's a hard job. Another Sean says maybe John Schneider is the problem, his staff, his roster. It could be. Maybe something that will be talked about this week, Sean. I guarantee it. Fans will be talking about it. Thank you for the super chats, everybody. Noah says defense looks awful. Special teams looks horrible. Gino is still not that guy. Not being able to beat the Giants last week told me everything. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate that. And yeah, I think, the thing for me was that let's see them against the Niners. Let's see them against the Niners. Expect them to beat the Giants, but we can judge them when they played the Niners. Well, we've seen them play the Niners and they were crap. And they lost to the Giants. And they put up a bit of a fist on offense against the Lions, but the defensive performance was disgraceful. Take 610 says, Gino looked mad the entire game. Just looked like he didn't want to be out there. Then he broke a tablet over his head. Hawks fan Mattman says, you're not thinking one and done for McDonald yet, right? I'm not thinking that yet. I mean, I'm not going to come out and call for a coach to be fired after 6 games. My worry is that what is the reason for encouragement right now? How do you, people will talk themselves into the blind faith of this week. They'll get it right. They'll get it going. Yeah. But they can't do anything on defense. Like if the offense was bad and the defense was great, that'd be fine by me because you could just put it down to, well, Ryan Grubb's never coached in the NFL before. And at least the defense from the head coach that you brought in to make brilliant defense is doing his part of the bargain. But the defense is awful. It's as bad, if not worse, than at the worst points of last season. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. And for that reason, I'm worried. So no, I'm not thinking one and done. I'm not calling for that. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just concerned. Really concerned by what I've seen. Lil Smooch says, if this keeps up, might be fine after 1 year. I mean, look, anything can happen in the NFL, but I'm not going there yet. And if people imply that I am, I'm not. But how can you not be worried about what we've seen in these last couple of games? My word, they have got so much work they need to do to fix this. And you shouldn't just get the benefit of the doubt. Easy says, if Mike isn't the guy, John loses his job too. We're in for a long, grueling rebuild if that happens. By the way, where are Mike's mastermind blitzers? I'd take anything right now. A base defense that's as boring as anything, as a cheese sandwich without any cheese in it, that just tackles and plays the fundamentals well, will be good enough for me. That they're not even doing that. There's nothing. It looks really, really bad. And I do fear that the Seahawks are in this spot. Like maybe they do need a grueling rebuild, but they're kind of like they're too good to sort of embrace that they're in that position, but they're not good enough to be a contender or maybe even a playoff team. They're in that kind of murky middle zone still. And it is the worst place to be. And the only way you get out of it is by acquiring or developing blue chip players and having an outstanding quarterback. And they ain't doing a good enough job of that right now. Thank you, Easy, for the super chat. Thank you for all of these. I can't quite believe how many there are. Drew B says, is it possible that Grubb keeps forgetting he doesn't have last year's UW offensive line this year and should perhaps take a look at not doing that? I'm not buying the offense right now. I know it looked great against Detroit. I don't understand their plans. And they might say, well, that's because you don't know what you're talking about. And well, fair point. I'm not seeing it, not feeling it. I don't understand the lack of runs last week. I don't understand the running up the gut so much this week. I mean, predictable to start the game. Maybe they could argue if Geno Smith could throw a third down accurate pass, then they could build off that. If DK could catch a pass, then it might have been a different game. But at the minute, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the going up, no huddle, then looking at the sideline, which is a college thing, and then changing the play. I'm not crazy about that. Like Washington had a great O-line last year, and the Seahawks don't have a great O-line this year. Old Caulfield Brand says, Schneider gets touted as a draft guru, but he ignores the interior O-line and right tackle. Anybody looks good if they only had to draft and field a 48-man team. I mean, look, in fairness to John Schneider, I know I really liked Abe Lucas. I thought he was a first-round talent, and I think he showed in his first year in the league that he probably deserved that grade. And I think the Seahawks are very high on him. And what's happened to him with his injuries has robbed us all of potentially one of the better right tackles in the league, and that's a crying shame. So I think that has to be acknowledged. Ignoring the interior O-line, not sure about that. They've not done a good enough job there, that's for sure. But they did go out and sign Connor Williams. They felt they had to do something. They did do that. They drafted Christian Haynes at right guard. Laken Tomlinson at left guard was not a solution, and they should have done more to build up that interior O-line. They definitely should have done. But I don't think it's fair to say that they've ignored it. They did spend a pick on Anthony Bradford. They spent a pick on Oluwatimi in the past. James Carpenter, Justin Britt, both high picks. Damian Lewis was a third-round pick. They have spent picks. John Moffitt. They've spent picks on the interior O-line. They just haven't done a good enough job. And what I will keep saying, and this is not to defend John Schneider too much, there are about 28 teams in the league who are struggling to build an interior O-line. The players aren't there. And it's really difficult for a lot of teams. It's like, how do you work around it? The Niners don't have a good O-line, but their quarterback's making plays and he's scrambling around and stuff like that. It's kind of what you have to do. A-Troop says 107 points allowed in 3 games. Mike M is lost. I think he is lost at the minute. I think he's scrambling around Francis and he doesn't know what to do because he's not an experienced coach. 2 years as a defensive coordinator, playing with Lamar Jackson's offense and having the lead in most games. That's a lot easier to play defense with than this. And I think he's struggling. Old Coffee Brand again, thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate it. Week after week, Bobo steps up quietly when called and does things we expect from DK. Agree with that. Jake Bobo is playing very well. And he has got a bit of an edge to him. K Soon says, would love to see Mike lose it on the players. I suspect he may well do a bit of that. He seems to have that mean streak in him. If there's ever a time to do it, probably this week. Brett Diggs says, KJ harped all last season that this team isn't playing together. There's no oneness, and it's the same this year. And how crudely poetic he's across the sideline in enemy red. Brett, that's a great point. You tell me, where is that oneness? Where is that big-time leadership, that brotherhood? Where is it? Who you don't see them together. Like, they're just... It does feel like a bunch of individuals sometimes when you look at the energy on that sideline. Like, where is it? Where's the band of brothers mentality that the great Seattle team had 10 years ago? It doesn't seem to be there. Like the quarterback, when a bad thing happens, goes and has a sulk on the bench. Like Russell would be going, come on. You've got to believe you can still win this game. And people thought it was an act and cringing. Like, maybe they had a point sometimes, but man, it seemed to work sometimes. Like Gino has a sulk, bottom lip comes out. DK has a strop. Like, come on. Where is that sort of oneness, as Brett says? It's a good point. I think KJ Wright, he did say it. He did say it, and he looks right. He looks very right at the moment. Thank you, Brett. Darth says, it seems as if the defense reverted back to last year where they don't know how to use their arms and hands to tackle. Oh, and what's a sack again, says Darth. What's a sack? What's a pick? What's a turnover? Aye, it's bad. Thank you, Darth. Michael, do you think we should start thinking of the draft? Yes. Yes, I do. And as it happens, there is one team in the NFL who has a dedicated draft blog to their team, and it is called SeahawksDraftBlog.com. And if you head over there now and you scroll down a little bit, you will see this, my article reacting to this. You'll see Curtis's preview, and then you'll see my scouting notes for this week. And I've done them every week. And if you want to go back and look through those notes, I think it'd be a useful place to start. But yes, it is time to start thinking about the draft, because right now, Seahawks look like a team they're going to be picking in the top 10. And it is a crap top 10 this year. So there's no relief there. It is a crap top 10. But we'll get into it. We're going to have to start looking at those guys. More Tesla. Thank you very much for that extremely generous super chat. It means the world to me, because it is 5:10 in the morning here. And I'm blown away by the support that you guys give a bloke in Rotherham who's had a crap week because I've had my car stolen, my house broken into, and I've watched the Seahawks play like garbage twice in a matter of days, And I can tell you now, I am ready for the weekend. Maud Tesla says, if Seattle looks very similar to what we've seen the last 3 weeks for most or all of the rest of the season, what does that mean to you? I've only got about 5% of your football knowledge, but still think Mike deserves 3 years to build his team. Thank you for all your work. I think it's a fair point. It's a good counter to some of the points I've made. If the issues were the same last year and it is the bulk of the same roster, should we expect different results? I think my expectation would be that yes, you would expect some different results because there are things that you could, things like tackling. I think any professional football player, especially those that are earning the amount of money that some of Seattle's defenders are, should be able to execute a tackle. And it shouldn't last for 1 week of good tackling and then it goes to pot. That's kind of what's happened. I would expect that to be better. I would expect a team that has invested as much as it has in its defensive line, and I know they've got injuries, to create more pressure than what we're seeing, especially when, the Niners have an out-of-form Trent Williams and not a lot else on their offensive line. I would expect not to be giving up 229 rushing yards to the Niners, 186 to the Pats, and 175 to the Giants, and 116 to the Lions. I would expect better than that. So I do think you make a point that you could say to me, you're having a go at Mike McDonald, and maybe he just inherited a bad situation. I completely accept that. I still think I need to see more from him to be encouraged that he can turn this around or that he is going to be the man who turns it around. And I'm desperate to see that because the last thing I want the Seahawks to do is end up a really bad football team who keep chucking through coaches. That is not what I have any interest in. But right now, I need to see something. I need to see something against the Falcons next week that makes me think, yes, okay, they can turn a corner because this is getting worse, not better. Really appreciate that super chat, Montez. That is extremely generous. And thank you to everybody who sent them in. Gino and DK's attitude and sulking made me believe this coaching staff is already losing the players. They may be. It's also a product of losing. When you win games, players will buy in. When you lose every week, players will bail. It's as simple as that. And players will start to question things. And there'll be a lot of that today. There'll be WhatsApp groups. There'll be text exchanges. There'll be talks behind mouths in locker rooms. There'll be the players talk. They don't just go home and complain to the wife, girlfriend, best friend, parent, brother, sister, whatever, dog. They'll talk, and there'll be a lot of that stuff going on right now. I guarantee it. After 3 straight losses. Kelvin says, was this a huge loss because the Seahawks face Falcons and Bills at home? Can they still make the playoffs and still have to play the Rams or Arizona? Yeah. I mean, look, they're 3-3. They can still make the playoffs. But their schedule is harder than I thought it was. Certain teams that I expected to not be very good have ended up being better than I expected. The Falcons are one of them. The Falcons they have been competitive. Even when they've lost, they've been right in games. They look like they function. They look like they know what they are trying to do. The Seahawks don't right now. They look a mess. So if they lose 5 in a row and end up 3-5, and then that, you've got the Rams, Niners, and Cards to follow after that. That's make or break time for the season. But right now, I'm very much in the playoffs, you just win a game of football mentality because they're playing like crap. I don't want to see this team in the playoffs playing like that. That's for sure. Especially if they play the Niners again. It's bad enough losing to them twice every year. When it's 3 times a year, it's Sean says, we love you, Rob. Your coverage is second to none. Sean, thank you for that. And I appreciate you've sent a couple of super chats in. And look, the amount that have come in tonight has made the fact I wasn't going to do this. I was just going to do a video. I thought, no, I want to talk about this. I want to get a few things off my chest. It's a solo pod. I've got no one to bounce off. You guys have stepped up to the plate big time. You clearly had an appetite to talk about this, and I really appreciate that you did and that you're supporting the channel in the way that you are. And Hunter says, can we trade for John Lynch? He's done a good job. And again, he gets a lot of grief, as does Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. Their media is a bit different, and they've got guys who will get after him. They should have won a Super Bowl, and you can sort of blame them a little bit for that, but they've been to Super Bowls. They've been to NFC Championship games, and I could only dream of the Seahawks doing that again. They are not close. Zorn76, big thank you to Zorn for that very generous super chat. Dedicated to 30-plus rush attempts a game moving forward. Go Hawks. I just want to see I want to see the fundamentals better. I want to see a team that fights. I want to see a team that plays, that avoids stupid mistakes early in the game to get behind. I want to see a team that can get the basics right, like the fundamentals, and can tackle and get off a block. If they can do that and still, if they do that and still lose, I don't mind. I just don't want to. I don't like watching this way of losing. Sean says French feels toxic at this point, I'm afraid. Thank you, Sean. And Brett says hiring Leslie Frazier was lauded at the time as counsel. Curious his overall role in the team. Overall role in the team. It's late. And what input he provides specifically in this moment. I think that is a question that would be well worth putting to Mike McDonald right now and asking him, because he needs to lean on somebody right now, because as we've said, he looks scrambled. He looks like he doesn't know what to do, and he's going to need all of that experience and all of that help. I've seen someone in the comments saying, how does Dan Quinn look right now? I mean, yeah, Dan Quinn's doing a great job in Washington, but I think the quarterback there is one of the main reasons why they're doing well. And the offensive coordinator looks reborn, getting his second chance in the NFL. So you have to give them a lot of credit. I was, after the 3-0 start, I think we were all kind of feeling good, but like waiting for the real tests. I don't think any of us expected it to be 3-3 and as bad as it has been in the last 3 games. And it's a real shame. So where do they go from here? They've got to be better than this. They've got to be better than this. And I'm worried, guys. I'm worried. And I think probably by the looks of things, a lot of you are as well. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up there, because I think I've got through all of the super chats. One last one's come in from Sean. Meant to say franchise feels toxic. Yeah, listen, I think he does a little bit. I suppose just define toxic. For me, in this instance, toxic means the crap at home. Away fans are taking over Lumen Field for big games. They've kind of been the same team for a while now, which is good enough to not be awful, not good enough to be great. And that's a really bad place to be. And the fan base tears itself apart. Like the people who are inclined, and I've been one of them, to not argue for Geno Smith to get a massive contract. When he threw that second pick, I fired out a tweet, as you do. I fired it out. Just get it out there. No talk of contracts or something I put. I reckon there's going to be all that, and they're going to have their day in the sun over the next 24 hours. Then, if he has a great game in Atlanta, get him paid again. And that's what feels toxic as well for me. I think there are issues with this franchise, and until they can win and put a consistent winner out there and can actually look like a serious NFL team that can be a threat in the playoffs again, it's going to stay that way. Sean, thank you for your super chats. Thank you to everybody who's got in touch. Really appreciate all of that. Unless anyone's got any last ones, I'm going to wrap it up there. What I would say is that if you go over to seahawksdraftblog.com, there is a written article on the game, which I was working on throughout the game, because there were large spells where watching it was really terrifying. Funnily enough, I'm going to go and watch Terrifier 3, because I like a horror film tomorrow. And I don't know if that will be as horrifying as parts of that game today. I will report back as to whether it is. But yeah, not good. Not good at all. 6 straight losses to the Niners, 3 straight losses this season, and it's worrying. So the write-up's on seahawksdraftblog.com. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. As I keep saying, about 40% of you are not subscribed, but watch. So help me out. Let's get the numbers up. Let's get those numbers closer to 10K. Subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos that we do. We talk about the Seahawks, we talk about the NFL, we talk about the draft. So make sure you subscribe. Give the video a like if you wouldn't mind, because that helps as well. And if you've got time, leave a comment in the comment section, even if you were joining in on the live chat. And there'll be more analysis across the next few days on seahawksdraftblog.com. Big thank you to all of those of you who watched. I'm sorry that we couldn't have talked about a win, because, boy, we need to win a game against the Niners soon. But for now, enjoy the rest of your week. Take care, and I'll see you next time.